You ever walk around your house or something and you look at a bunch of stuff and maybe solve some weird brain teasers? Well, guess what, son? They make games out of that. Walking simulators, also known as interactive narratives, are the games that focus on telling a story with the gameplay, which mostly focuses on simple stuff such as the environment or, walking. Meaning that with gameplay not really having any depth or engagement, the immersion and entertainment will usually come from the game's ability to tell a gripping story for all to enjoy. So today we're going to look at some different definitions of what a walking simulator is. Once again, we're going to split these up into 3 categories, and that being puzzles, and more puzzles, games that focus on just solving puzzles, if that wasn't clear. Visual delights, games that focus on the art and the visuals as opposed to telling a narrative. And playable books, games that are basically just story, and more story with a little bit of walking, cool stuff. We're not going to talk about horror games because that's a whole nother topic, and quite frankly that stuff spooks the hell out of me, so I don't want to do that. And we're not really going to focus on games that have any type of combat, so no Death Stranding for, anyone out there that actually liked that game. So the first one we're going to cover is the most common type of walking sim, and that's puzzles. Because if there's one thing gamers love when they're not getting a sick shot in Fortnite, is solving some Rubik's Cube while walking around a virtual world. But seriously, since combat is pretty much entirely excluded from this genre, the idea of solving puzzles and mysteries seems like a no-brainer for this type of game. Some games choose to draw a strong story-rich experience paired up with some brain teasers, but we're going to look at a game that focuses completely on the puzzle aspect. The Witness is a game that starts out with you showing up on an island in the middle of nowhere, and you're immediately presented with some maze-like puzzles. This game combines these with some visually pleasing landscapes. They have a feeling of personality with different segments of the island being different to each one presented. Meaning that this has a feeling of open world, so if you're stuck on some annoying ass riddle that you can't wrap your brain around, you can move on to something different for a while. Full disclosure, I did not finish this game, unlike the other 2 categories I'm going to get into, because it has literally 500 challenges. It says that on Steam, and I'm not the Riddler, so I don't have patience for that. At the end of the day, it is hard to deny that the combination of these 2 genres don't work insanely well. I hope we see a lot more of these kind of games that focus around logic and problem solving, because they show a lot of charm, as these games can provide a sense of pride and accomplishment because you're a goddamn puzzle wizard. Anyway, I don't have a lot to say on this topic anymore, so we're going to move on to the next category. Hi! If you watched my last video, you'll remember how I talked about how video games are like paintings or something along those lines. Well, that statement definitely applies to this absolute beauty. The game that earns itself the tag Masterpiece on Steam. Today we're going to talk about a little game called Journey. Journey is a game that relies on telling its story through the use of the game's visuals and a few cutscenes. Not much is really known about the story. I mean, it's kind of weird, but it's a story about going on one big journey, as the game says. But it wasn't the narrative that struck a chord with me, it was the use of its minimalistic environments and landscapes that, despite looking pretty bland, allowed this sense of wonder and awe that I've found in myself personally. From its deserted deserts to the big snowy mountains, this game had intrigue and beauty in it everywhere. I mean, literally every part of this game could be hung up on a wall in some museum and declared art. This game has this weird pull to it. My whole playthrough I was captivated from the very start, and the game's length doesn't make it seem too long and boring. It goes to show that a game that doesn't focus on combat or an obvious goal in mind can still provide a unique and unforgettable experience. It's worth mentioning that when playtesting this game, 25 of the playtesters actually cried at the end. It's a great experience, but I'm not a baby, I'm not gonna cry about it. Do you like books, or do you at least like story-driven experiences? If you said no to both of those things, then this final category is gonna upset you, and I'm not sorry for that. The purpose of this category is to talk about games that focus entirely on the storytelling aspect, while providing an environment that is intriguing and enticing, feeding into the emotional weight that the narrative is trying to convey. For a good example of this this is a game that inspired me to make this video, and that game is called Gone Home. Gone Home takes place during 1995 and puts you in the shoes of a young adult named Katie, who has just come home from her time abroad in Europe. However, she returns to an empty and unknown house with none of her family in sight. Already this poses an interesting situation, as it's up to the player to figure out what's happened by exploring the house and looking for clues. This game has you search for items of interest, and once interacted with, play a journal entry from Katie's younger sister Sam, who has had a lot of stuff going on while you were off in Paris, France, or other European places. This goes from her first day at a new school to even making friends with this cool chick named Lonnie. As the game unfolds, it's revealed that Sam and Lonnie have become romantically involved, and due to it being the old Wild West that was the 90s, they gotta keep it a secret, and that's where the drama unfolds. The lonely and somber atmosphere feeds into the mood of the dialogue so well that when you discover stuff throughout the house, it makes you want to get to know everything about this family, from its ups, its downs, to what's in their sock drawer. The journal entries have this teenage girl diary charm to them that makes them feel a little bit pleasant and interesting to listen to, each one feeling bittersweet in its own way. I'm not going to spoil the ending because it's a pretty neat game and I think you should play it for yourself. As I said earlier, this was the game that inspired me to make this video. I remember being 13 and I picked up this game on Steam and I started playing it, and the exploration paired with the intriguing story just gripped me in a way that video games hadn't really done before. The point of this video was to showcase that games can have the ability to show off that games can be more than just games. They can be vessels for stories that can stick with us forever. I'd like to revisit this concept in the future, and if you'd like to see something like that, then please let me know in the comments. This video has been pretty emotionally draining for me, so I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you for watching and have a good day. Hey everyone, Aussie again. Whoa, I'm back. If you really liked that video and want to show your support, then be sure to check out my Patreon. Or if you want to keep up to date with what the hell's going on in my life, then you can check out my Twitter and or Instagram. And, I thank you for watching, and subscribe if you enjoyed it, and like if you enjoyed it. If you didn't like it, then, I can't help you. So, my neck hurts, and I'm gonna get out of here. Again. Bye.